So I think there are two dimensions there. The first is that Article 50 provides that the 2-year period can be extended, but it can only be extended with the unanimous agreement of all 27 member states. So whether the 2-year negotiating period can be extended will depend on the attitude of the other countries within the EU. The other bigger question is around the possible reversibility of Article 50, which is something that I've commented on at length since the referendum. The key thing to note there is that the question of reversibility is a question of European law, and it's a question that the Court of Justice ultimately will be able to decide. There are very, very strong opinions on both sides. That there are some who argue that the notification, once given, will inevitably lead to us leaving the EU. But there are other people who argue that it is possible to reverse the notification, and so at some point later on in the process, when we have an idea of what the deal is going to look like, we can make a decision about not only either to accept the deal, perhaps leave the EU without a deal, or reverse the notification, and the consequence of that would be that we would remain within the EU. One of the things that I find very difficult to understand is that the government seems to be prepared or is ready, will trigger Article 50 in the next days without knowing what the rules of the game are. So we don't know whether Article 50 is reversible or not. And so a lot of the political debate around what will happen at the end of the process, whether there might be a second referendum, whether there would need to be a general election, I think are conditioned by the legal question, which is whether or not Article 50 can be revoked. And we don't know the answer to that question. And it is only the Court of Justice that is able to give us an answer. The next question is what role Parliament will have in relation to the negotiations going forward. The Great Repeal Bill is expected on Thursday of this week. And the big uncertainty is about what happens in relation to Parliament's vote on the withdrawal deal. The political attitude at the moment seems to be, or the Labour Party seems to be insisting that Parliament must be given a meaningful vote, but it's not particularly clear what a meaningful vote involves. I think the government is suggesting that Parliament will get a take it or leave it vote on the deal. So either Parliament will accept the deal or we leave without a deal at all. Parliament, I think, wants to insist on sending the government back to renegotiate. So if Parliament doesn't like the resulting deal, they want to be able to sort of say, no, this isn't the deal that we want you to go back and negotiate something better. And Parliament's role becomes stronger again if Article 50 does turn out to be reversible. Parliament would say, we don't like the deal, and in fact what we want to do is to revoke the notification, in which case the result might be that we could remain in the EU. I think it's politically hugely unlikely at the moment to envisage a circumstance in which the result will be to remain. But remember, these negotiations will go on for 2 years. We're talking maybe 18 months down the line, and a lot can happen in 18 months, and the political constellations can change. Clearly, the more important questions are about the substance of whatever withdrawal deal we're going to have. So issues like the extent to which we're going to be able to maintain trading relationships with the rest of the EU, issues around the rights of citizens, and all manner of very, very complicated sort of legal issues. And I think these are the things that most people in the country are worried about, and to some extent my concern is that we're being deflected by some of these questions of process and not able to consider the more important questions of substance. In relation to the impact on Bristol, Bristol clearly voted to remain by quite a large margin, and there's a lot of work going on all over the university in order to help Bristol to prepare for Brexit. So we have a series of workshops that are going on in April and in May, and what we're trying to do is to explore the implications for citizens, for businesses of Brexit, and ensure that Bristol's voice is heard in the process.